Connecting your ERP to your AI client of choice is made easy with PopdockAI. There's just a handful of steps that we'll be going through to demonstrate how to access different ERP endpoints within your AI client of choice. So inside of PopDoc, if we navigate to the MCP section, you can see that we have a handful of different MCP servers. This is really the starting point. If you don't have a server already created, you would start by adding a new MCP server, giving it a name and a description, and then from there you'd be able to begin adding tools. I'm going to utilize one of my existing ones. I'm going to navigate into my MCP server, and to start connecting it to different endpoints within your ERP of choice, you navigate to the tools section. Now, we have a handful of different tool types depending on the function or service that you want the AI client to interact with your ERP. So in this case, I'm going to be using Business Central Get Data tool, which you can see that we've already created here. But we have different tool types depending on the function that you're expecting the AI client to perform or interact with your business application. I'm going to navigate into my BC Lines transaction endpoint. Inside of here, we are providing a description of what this tool does so that the AI client understands how to interact with this endpoint in the context of what you're trying to have it perform when you're working with inside of a chat. So you can see we have a very basic description on this one. These descriptions can be much more detailed, but this one is just providing insight that we're getting a list of sales line items. As I scroll down here, you can see that the connector that's being utilized, that is a D365 Business Central connector, and specifically pointing to a sales lines list. There's some additional configuration options in here. We can have some input validation so that when an AI client is interacting with this endpoint, it can help refine the search. So it's not searching across all sales lines. We're either passing in some context so that it's refining what we're searching for inside of the application. So we have a handful of parameters in here. We can make parameters required as well, so you do have some control over that. Let's take a peek behind the scenes of one of these parameters, just so you can see a little bit of the configuration. With a parameter, just like you would with a tool or with an MCP server, you're providing a description for what this parameter is doing. So you can see in here, we have it saying that it's filtering by the name of a customer on a sales transaction. And then you can see that we are applying a parameter type, so you can see the field that it's being applied to and the restriction type that we're using. All of this is configurable, and again, it really acts as some input validation so that the AI client knows exactly what you're trying to search for. In addition to the parameters, we also have the ability to apply restrictions. In this case, there's no restrictions applied, but if we wanted to provide some field level restrictions, we do have the ability to do so. The other component then is the response. We do have control over the response type. More oftentimes than not, JSON list is primarily going to be used, but you can adjust how the data is going to be responded by the AI client. And then you are selecting what fields you want to have the AI client return as part of the response. So it's not searching through every single field on this list or on this endpoint. You're really giving a lot of control in terms of not only what's being passed in, but also what we're pulling out of the system. With this tool, once you've created and gone through the process of setting it up, if you change the status of it to active, it is now an available to within this MCP server, assuming that your user has security access to it. So let's jump inside of Claude now, and I'll show you the setup of accessing it. So if we go into Claude, navigate to settings and into our connectors. Now, one precursor to this is that the connector for your MCP server would have already needed to be established, usually by an administrator inside of Claude. You can see in my case down here when I scroll down that the server that I am currently utilizing that contains my tool, we've already set up as a connector. So from here, I'm going into connect. I'm putting in my username and password. You can now see that inside of my connectors here, you're now seeing a configure option, meaning that we've connected to this server. I can then go in and see the tools that my user has access to, which in this case is that single BC sales line transactions tool. And you can change how you want the client to interact with this tool whenever we are going to access it. So now if we jump back into our chat, we can interact with the tool. So if I put in a prompt, you can see that Claude has identified the tool that I am utilizing connecting to my Business Central environment, and then is going and returning all sales line transactions for this customer. As you can see, in a couple of minutes, we can create a connection between our ERP Business Central and our AI client, in this case, Claude.